In this video, we are going to read about good governance. In the vocabulary of public administration, good governance is a recent entrant. Though the concept is of late origin, it has been an area of concern and interest for long in public administration. Since the very initial phase of public administration, there has been concern to define the roles and responsibilities of the government to bring better administration, which could address all the needs and issues of people at large. But in the recent past, issues of governance have received increased serious attention from the researchers, policy makers, and international development communities. To understand what is meant by governance, one may compare and contrast with the term government. Governance and government are always closely associated. The government is a machinery or institution which is meant to exercise sovereign power to accomplish certain goals, political, economic, and social. Traditionally, the manner of exercising the sovereign power by the government is referred as governance. In other words, governance is the manner of exercising and assigning the social, political, and economic resources of the government to various groups and categories for development. By 1980s, the concept of governance had evolved. Governance began to mean a type of paradigm which includes multiple actors, unlike government, which is a single actor. The scope of governance includes actors such as state, market, civil society, and all the non-state institutions. Origin of good governance. We will read background of emergence of good governance. The World War II was a watershed in the history of mankind. After the war, a number of countries became free and independent. This was the period of decolonization. The war marked the arrival of two superpowers, United States and USSR. The political scenario changed completely. USA and USSR had different ideologies. USA believed in liberalistic and capitalist philosophy, whereas USSR followed communism. The two fought for global hegemony. This led to Cold War between USSR and USA. In this bipolar era, USSR was spreading socialism, that is communism. The West, especially US, were paranoid about the expansion of communist philosophies in developing and newly developed independent countries. The very idea of communism impressed the poor and developing countries. Meanwhile, the West or US intended to contain the spread of communism. The US began to assist the developing countries, and the ostensible reason behind this assistance was to contain the spread of communism. The US took a benevolent stand and assisted developing countries financially, technologically, managerially. This Western assistance was provided without much of conditionality. Even if there were any conditions, then they were usually acceptable to the developing countries. The West usually provided the financial assistance with a prescription of how to utilize the funds. It was assistance with an advice rather than with conditions. Despite the financial assistance, the developing countries repeatedly entered into financial crisis because of the number of other reasons. Whenever there was crisis, the West and multilateral financial organizations such as World Bank and IMF bailed them out, irrespective of the fact that the sustainability of a country depends not only on economic policies but also on social, political, and administrative policies and practices. The West was very much aware of the fact that economic stability and sustainability were affected by administrative and social habits and politics. Still, then they did not impose any conditions on assistance. This may be attributed to the fact that they had larger goal of containing the spread of communism by USSR. With time, the West was getting perturbed with the manner of spending the funds by the developing countries. All the benevolence of the West faded out once USSR disintegrated in 1989. The world became unipolar. The West usually, the US won the Cold War. All of a sudden, the West changed their policies towards the developing countries. Besides, the world was moving into the era of globalization, the very meaning of governance was changing. Traditionally, the governance meant simply a process, but the meaning of governance changed with time. It was aptly defined by Nicholas Henry. Governance is institutional and networked. Governance means governing by networks. In 1989, the sub Saharan African countries entered into a deep financial crisis. The West this time provided the assistance with conditions imposing on the receiving countries. This marked the beginning of a new phase. The concept of assistance with a conditionality subsequently extended to all other developing countries. For instance, it was said that India adopted the policy of liberalization, privatization, and globalization in 1991 because of international pressures. Moreover, the conditions were no longer restricted to economics, rather extended to other policies, political, social, and administrative. The development assistance by the Western countries led to the coining of the term good governance. So, let's read it again. The development assistance by the Western countries led to the coining of the term good governance. It is in this context that the World Bank, in one of its documents in 1989, highlighted the concept of good governance in the context of sub-Saharan countries of Africa. This is the origin of the good governance. Now we will go further and read meaning of governance and good governance.
Good governance, 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 good governance. Dañoo marché bi système a jeté sonn nañ ci juge ñàkk dignité leral leen crime yi ngeen di maquiller trop de yàmm neex ndax ay plume a jeté économie bi di traîner mbuxum yee ko freiné justice bi di peine état bee ko chaîne blanchir argent sale ak ay combat dugal fraude indi drogue ak ay coups bas ay kees yu ñu këpp ay enquête yu ñu dëpp audit yi tax ko suuf lay régler foog nga tuuf journaliste yi laal ay dessous de table tu sais que c'est le pouvoir qui tire les câbles baratin tremplin butin pantin mort de faim beau de vin assassin putain état de droit c'est faux faux usage de faux signé assigné dossier classé secret gros bonnet s'il te plaît yaa ngi ñuy ko sonné tëj ki ci sa kàcc bi ngeen bëgg a dëkkee.
Ok, monnaie, Khalis, jet, les mots ont perdu la tête. Les régimes se succèdent, mais toujours les mêmes systèmes. Pourris jusqu'à l'os, ils veulent éduquer nos gosses. La misère a fait les poches et s'est juché dans les caboches. Oh. Mieux vaut être un pauvre libre qu'un esclave riche. Ce n'est plus le mérite qui est promu, mais plutôt la triche. Projet détourné, budget détourné, sujet détourné, infrastructure détournée.
Good governance, good governance, good governance, good governance. Good governance, good governance, good governance, good governance.
Il paraît que ni contrôle qui rang moko chama mesonga takasala.
Good governance.
Ijonga bolo birinda para la sanuka ke jene bata nyogona. Na kera pe fone kunde chinda ke fra anga moko tisiki kumba iko bajrunta. L'éducation depuis qu'on avait comment la insécurité bilama date sikadora.
Le développement exige un partage équitable. La bonne gouvernance, c'est respecter les contribuables. Le respect des institutions dépend des dirigeants fiables. La corruption continuelle en Afrique n'est pas une fable. Le vol orchestré, détournement autorisé, népotisme, favoritisme, le clanisme a duré. Justice marchandée, l'injustice perpétuée, l'immoralité acceptée, l'intégrité tuée.
Good governance, 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 good governance.
Enough is enough, ninja neck cartoon duff. Injustice with a for buddy, they could be digging us off. Dipping their hands in the gutter, then your handcuffs, spending money on trips, there ain't no light in the streets. Enough is enough, ninja talk recte, banya watcha. I just time limit for their selfish interest. Holly askan be the nacha, but had they could be new such a file to new land fall, that's and post tal.
Respect the rule of law, fundamental human rights. Always think that you were right. Respect all human life. Yep, but what I let you see, more transparency, freedom of expression and freedom of assembly, independent judicial and legislative, no to nepotism, corruption. Yeah, they all related. If we gave you our votes, that means we count on you. All the promises you made, we gonna keep you accountable.
Good governance, 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 good governance.
On ne lutte pas contre les évidences. Il est clair que la femme dont la photo tourne depuis à la télé est la même qui me déroba ma conscience à base de charme et de CFA Soja. Je vous comprends très bien, Miabeto Yade. Et c'est ce temps-là, attentat à la bombe dans un temple de la capitale. Bilan amer, triste et fatal. Quelques généraux des membres du parti, mon cousin, ma mère, ont trouvé la mort dans cette catastrophe. Belle dame, élégante et souriante, qui cachait des explosifs dans son regard. Yao, je m'appelle, Joanie depuis 20 ans à la frontière qui sépare l'Africain de l'Afrique. Mon gros ventre, suspendu dans les airs, était rempli d'abus exercés sur des honnêtes gens ce soir. J'ai fait face à mon destin, me suis jeté dans le vide, la corde au cou pour rejoindre les miens. On ne lutte pas contre les évidences. Il est clair que c'est la femme sur la photo qui a posé la bombe. Elle voulait venger sa sœur, mais ça, tu vois, c'est une autre histoire.
Opposition en prison ou en exil, droit à la parole, parce que c'est ça. Good governance, good governance, fond. Journaliste en prison. Opposition en prison ou en exil. Droit à la parole.
dañoo maar ci bi système AGT sonn nañ ci juge ñàkk dignité leral leen crime yi ngeen di maquiller trop de yàmm neex ndax ay plume AGT économie bi di traîne mbuxum yee ko freiné justice bi di peine état bee ko chaîne blanchir argent sale ak ay combat dugal fraude indi drogue ak ay coup bas ay kees yu ñu këpp ay enquête yu ñu dëpp audit yi tax ko suuf lay régler foog nga tuuf journaliste yi laal ay dessous de table tu sais que c'est le pouvoir qui tire les câbles baratin tremplin butin pantin mort de faim beau de vin assassin putain état de droit c'est faux usage de faux signé assigné dossier classé secret gros bonnet s'il te plaît yaa ngi ñi ko sonné tëj ki ci sa gàcc bi ngeen bëgg a dëkkee.
Ok, monnaie, Khalis, jet, les mots ont perdu la tête. Les régimes se succèdent, mais toujours les mêmes systèmes. Pourris jusqu'à l'os, ils veulent éduquer nos gosses. La misère a fait les poches et c'est juché dans les caboches. Oh. Mieux vaut être un pauvre libre qu'un esclave riche. Ce n'est plus le mérite qui est promu, mais plutôt la triche. Projet détourné, budget détourné, sujet détourné, infrastructure détournée.
Good governance, good governance, good governance, good governance. Good governance, good governance, good governance, good governance.
Il paraît qu'il n'y contrôle qui est Anganyamoko Chama Mesonga Takasala.
Good governance.
Ijonga Bolo Birinda Parala Sanuka Gene Bata Nyogona. Nakera Pefone Kunde Chinda Kefra Anganyamoko Tissiki Kuno Iko Bajunta. L'éducation depuis Kuno Bekuma la insécurité Bilama Dati Sikadora.
Le développement exige un partage équitable. La bonne gouvernance, c'est respecter les contribuables. Le respect des institutions dépend des dirigeants fiables. La corruption continuelle en Afrique n'est pas une fable. Le vol orchestré, détournement autorisé, népotisme, favoritisme, le clanisme a duré. Justice marchandée, l'injustice perpétuée, l'immoralité acceptée, l'intégrité tuée.
Good governance, 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 good governance.
Enough is enough, ninja neck cartoon duff. Injustice with a for buddy, they could be digging us soft. Dipping their hands in the gutter, then your handcuffs, spending money on trips, there ain't no light in the streets. Enough is enough, ninja talk rector, banya watcher, I just time limit for their selfish interest. Holly askan be the nacha, but had the cabin you such a file to new land fall, that's and post rental.
Respect the rule of law, fundamental human rights. Always think that you were right. Respect all human life. Yep, but what I let you see, more transparency, freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. Independent judicial and legislative, no to nepotism, corruption. Yeah, they all related. If we gave you our votes, that means we count on you. All the promises you made, we gonna keep you accountable.
Good governance, 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 good governance.
On ne lutte pas contre les évidences. Il est clair que la femme dont la photo on tourne depuis à la télé est la même qui me déroba ma conscience à base de charme et de CFA. Soja, je vous comprends très bien. Miabeto Yade. Et c'est là, attentat à la bombe dans un temple de la capitale. Bilan amer, triste et fatal. Quelques généraux des membres du parti, mon cousin et ma mère, ont trouvé la mort dans cette catastrophe. Belle dame, élégante et souriante, qui cachait des explosifs dans son regard. Yao, je m'appelle, joigné depuis 20 ans à la frontière qui sépare l'Africain de l'Afrique. Mon gros ventre, suspendu dans les airs, était rempli d'abus exercés sur des honnêtes gens ce soir. J'ai fait face à mon destin, me suis jeté dans le vide, la corde au cou pour rejoindre les miens. On ne lutte pas contre les évidences. Il est clair que c'est la femme sur la photo qui a posé la bombe. Elle voulait venger sa sœur, mais ça, tu vois, c'est une autre histoire.
Opposition en prison ou en exil. Droit à la parole. Parce que c'est ça.
Good governance,
le démocratie, détournement de fonds, journaliste en prison, opposition en prison, en exil, droit à la parole,
dañoo marché bi système AGT sonn nañ ci juge ñàkk dignité leral leen crime yi ngeen di maquillé trop de yàmm neex ndax ay plume AGT économie bi di traîne mbuxum yee ko freiné justice bi di peine état bee ko chaîne blanchir argent sale ak ay combat dugal fraude indi drogue ak ay coup bas ay kees yu ñu këpp ay enquête yu ñu dëpp audit yi tax ko suuf lay régler foog nga tuuf journaliste yi laal ay dessous de table tu sais que c'est le pouvoir qui tire les câbles baratin tremplin butin pantin mort de faim beau de vin assassin putain état de droit c'est faux usage de faux signé assigné dossier classé secret gros bonnet s'il te plaît yaa ngi ñuy ko sonné tëj ki ci sa gàcc bi ngeen bëgg a dëkkee.
Ok, monnaie, Khalis, jet, les mots ont perdu la tête. Les régimes se succèdent, mais toujours les mêmes systèmes. Pourris jusqu'à l'os, ils veulent éduquer nos gosses. La misère a fui les poches et s'est juché dans les caboches. Oh. Mieux vaut être un pauvre libre qu'un esclave riche. Ce n'est plus le mérite qui est promu, mais plutôt la triche. Projet détourné, budget détourné, sujet détourné, infrastructure détournée.
Good governance, good governance, good governance, good governance, good governance.